everything in oil and gas will be about efficiency. We took their average time from about a week and a half to a day. Not only capturing that ROI, but errors went down 90%. Time to enter in data went down about 50%, which you extrapolate that across a year for how often they were entering these data points was about 16,000 man hours. Pure data entry. Their time to prepare the reports went from a month to a day. Simple click of the button on our system. Gone are the days where you're joining 3 spreadsheets together. You're driving real efficiency by leveraging good software. And we're copying and pasting this across clients.
This is Philip Richard. He is the CEO of Porosity, a workflow automation platform that enables oil and gas companies to streamline compliance, maintenance, and emissions monitoring, helping detect leaks in real time. He's both literally and figuratively preventing fires. Today, we're going to talk with Philip about risk mitigation and the future of AI. Welcome to Wisdom at the Wellhead. This episode of Wisdom at the Wellhead by TotalStream is brought to you by New Tech Global.
Welcome to our episode of Wisdom at the Wellhead. Today, I'm your host, Cody Moore, and with me, I have my co-host, Kevin Fisher, VP of Business Development. Kevin, how you doing today?
Good. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent, thank you. And with me, we have our guest today from Porosity CEO, Mr. Philip Richard. How are you today, Philip?
Doing well, Cody. Thanks for having me.
Great, man. So just to kick off our podcast today, where are you from? Tell us where you're from.
Yeah, well, originally from South Louisiana. That's where all the family's from.
Sure,
but,
okay.
As you can tell by the last name, but we call Sugar Land home. So Sugar Land, Texas, just south of Houston, that's home.
Gotcha. So give us a little overview of how you got into the oil and gas industry and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So to make a long story not so long, I knew for a long time I wanted to be in the oil and gas industry. Mm-hmm. My dad was a petroleum engineer. Worked his way up to running oil and gas companies, and it was a pretty easy decision for me as a high schooler to decide that I wanted to be in oil and gas. My dad's someone I always really looked up to, always loved learning about his career when he'd come home, loved to talk about it, and it was a no-brainer for me. Growing up in Houston, being so close to A&M, which has such a great petroleum engineering school, that that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't so much of a no-brainer that I take the path that I took to kind of get where I am now, but started working in oil and gas companies right out of college, kind of made my way through a couple different companies, worked all across the country, most major shale basins as a production engineer, before making the switch right around COVID into the technology side of the industry.
Coming from the oil and gas industry, now you're in technology. What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, it started on the commercial side, and my first opportunity was with a great company, had an awesome technology that they took out of a lab from CU Boulder. Had a friend of mine who was an investor in the company, and he said, well, why don't you go ahead and kind of give them a shot? They don't know a lot about oil and gas. They need some help kind of commercializing the product, bringing it to customers, and I hadn't sold a thing a day in my life.
Right.
My time in oil and gas was spent writing workover procedures, maintaining production, doing some A&D work. And, I kind of took it as a challenge of how did I like to be sold to when I was an engineer?
Right.
I definitely saw the tailwinds coming to technology, particularly where this was in the green space, and, was hoping to kind of be a little bit more entrepreneurial with my career. So took a shot in this company, was the 8th employee, first one that really had some experience in oil and gas, and it worked out really well. Like I said, I kind of took those learnings of how did I like to be sold to. It wasn't so much the guy that takes you out to lunch every week, which is great, but but it's someone who knows the product that they're selling and not only knows how the product works, but how can I apply this in my role? How can I make that engineer across the table that I'm working with a superstar by showing them and guiding them how to use our technology?
And so what I'm hearing too is like your experience in the field, being a petroleum engineer, working in the field, that kind of prepared you to be a CEO, and the fact that you learned how the industry worked, you understood the field, and now you're able to go to VCs or whoever as the CEO and really share the value of what your company is currently providing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's a simple aspect of it, especially with the technology that isn't bred in oil and gas, right? Taking like we do at Porosity today, we're taking software that's built by incredibly competent engineers that come from likes of AWS and places like that. But it's not so much being able to go in and talk the talk with a guy, know what a tank is, know what a separator is, know what a valve is, but how can I help? How can I help your operation? I've been in your shoes, production engineer.
Right.
I've been in your shoes, production superintendent. How can what I'm doing actually help your day-to-day, make it more efficient, more safe, more clean? And what's the ROI for you by using my technology? Right. I could sit here all day and convince myself that my technology is great, but I got to convince the guy across the table that my technology is great.
Almost like showing them that this technology is not only going to change their life, make their job easier, but it's also going to make their day easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
Tell us a little bit more about Porosity and this technology that you're providing to the industry.
Yeah. Our thesis at Porosity is very simple.
Mm-hmm.
How can we drive efficiency in the field?
Mm-hmm.
When you kind of look at the landscape of oil and gas, there's 900,000 plus well sites. There's 300,000 plus field operators. And in today's environment, whether it be through environmental regulations, whether it be through investor pressure to oil and gas companies to really kind of buckle down, make the margins better, more and more is being put on the field for what they have to do on a day-to-day basis. A lease operator isn't just someone who collects gauges anymore.
Right.
A lease operator is in charge of maintenance. They're in charge of safety on their well site. They're in charge of compliance in their well site. And so what we really do at Porosity is we're a software tool. We're a mobile application and a web-based application. And we provide seamless, easy-to-use workflows for the field to ensure that the office is getting the data they need to make decisions, submit regulatory reports. So we do this across 3 areas today: leak detection and repair, LDAR, following the guidelines around the EPA or states that you have in Colorado, like Reg 7, New Mexico state federal regulations. We do this around maintenance, so day-to-day maintenance. This could be well work, surface work, I&E work, things like that. And then we do it around safety as well too. So the user in the field has the ability to collect all the data, guide them through their day, and enter through all their workflows within their mobile application. And then the users in the office can directly analyze this data. They can create reports. They can create regulatory filings, all through a seamless workflow within our web application. So that's really kind of the core Porosity, what we provide to our customers.
A question I always ask, being in sales and marketing too, or the question I ask myself is, how is my product, or how do I differentiate myself, right? I know there's products in every industry that wants to improve efficiency and optimize workflows. What is it that makes Porosity unique in your eyes from your competitors?
Yeah, there's a couple things there. So one thing our CTO, he told me day one is, he had spent 12 years working at AWS prior to founding Porosity. He was dealing with more bytes of data than Sega since the Big Bang. So these massive data sets. And it's a very simple adage you hear all the time, but garbage data in, garbage data out.
Yeah. Right.
Well, what's the easiest way to prevent garbage data from coming in? Well, it's making that entry, that management of it, the workflows around it as simple as possible.
Right.
It's secondhand for the field technicians. It's easy as can be for them to open up their mobile application. We create that experience like they're using an everyday app. Uber Eats, DoorDash, things like that. But we tailor it for the oil field environment. So you're able to step through your operator, every piece of data that they need. This allows for a rich data set now on the back end for, like I said, things such as analysis, regulations, reporting, breaking into the world of AI through this as well too. So the number one thing that really kind of differentiates us kind of through a couple of things around this is the simplicity around it and the ease of use around it, but then the tailored use specific to oil and gas.
Right.
The second thing though that, and not to disparage any other companies, but you hear this a lot, but we truly do listen and react to our customers. When a customer needs a new workflow, needs a new setup in their system, we get that done, and we get it done really quickly.
So it's not uncommon for you to, company A that wants to track something different than company B. It's nothing different for you to change the portal for company A from company B to make sure that they're capturing that data that they need?
Nothing for us. You know, the way we've set up our system architecture allows us to be able to make those changes and make them quickly.
Okay. So we a little while ago we talked about trying to sell it to the engineer that you're going to make their job easier. We all know that in the oil field, it's a lot easier to sell it to once you sell it to the office. But what do you tell the field is how this product makes the lease operator or the field personnel their life a lot easier?
So it's one thing that we actually do slightly different in our sales process is that a lot of times our entry point is the field.
Yeah.
You know, it's that production superintendent, that production foreman who is just so tired of having to whip out their laptop, go in their car and fill out the data they need.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a story that I like to tell when I was a young engineer, speaking with one of my lease operators, he would tell me, you know, he'd get out to the field at 6 a.m, he'd go home at 4, and then he spent 3 hours on his computer entering reports when he should be spending time with his family, should be, you know, taking a load off for a little bit, right? So we actually do a lot of the times we're selling into the field first, or at least getting that buzz created in the field to show them this is how easy it could be if you were to be using Porosity for your leak detection, for your maintenance, for your safety.
Yeah.
And that is actually kind of a tip of the spear into the decision makers, you know, the folks in the office, whether it be an engineer, middle management, VP level. And it tends to make our sales a lot more seamless in that way.
Yeah. That's great.
So yeah, you know, another thing that comes to my head, again, you're a CEO. Many of us don't, you know, we have our opinions of what CEOs do on a day-to-day basis, but you're a CEO of a startup company. What do you spend the majority of your time doing at this stage of your company?
Absolutely. So we want to be clear, we're a young company. We've been around for a few years. You know, I don't want to overly index on the CEO title, right? You know, it's a nice flashy thing, but like we truly do. Everyone contributes to a lot of the company at once. There's no really kind of like, this is your job and only do this. This is my job and I only do this. So I'm blessed and fortunate to have one of the best software teams that I've ever worked with. So I thankfully don't spend any time typing code because those guys are just absolute animals.
Right.
But you know, my kind of main role is selling. You know, it's getting the product out to the market, you know, developing your go-to-market strategy, executing on demos, executing on follow-up around that. You know, the other little things that do come up though, I mean, you know, I'm also in charge of our finances, I'm in charge of raising capital for us, speaking with investors, speaking to prospective investors who kind of just want to get to know us a little bit. Chief people officer too, you know, dealing with thankfully, again, I have a great team, don't ever have to deal with anything like that, but the compliance of just having a business and, you know, take care of accounting, invoicing, all that, you know, it can get a bit dizzying some days. Right. So, you know, you kind of have to set time aside and compartmentalize with the idea of more than anything, you know, a company our stage, our number one goal is to grow. And that is 95% of my focus is how can I set us up to grow?
So when you're speaking to these investors, what are some of the, I guess, buzzwords or keywords that you feel investors are looking to invest in? Yeah,
no, it's funny. Like those things can change month to month, quarter to quarter, day to day sometimes. But you know, on a macro scale, what everyone is talking about in the VC world is AI.
Right.
What are you doing around AI? You know, it's an interesting problem in oil and gas, right? Because a lot of times people look to AI as like, hey, these investment companies look, can I replace people? Can I replace costs? Can I replace processes? Well, oil and gas is kind of, you know, not so much for replacing people, but ripe for creating efficiency and cutting costs using AI. We all know we're a cyclical industry, right? You know, we see hiring waves go up and down, up and down. Well, I've kind of noticed in the past, you know, decade or so, the swings aren't as heavy. You know, we're kind of trying to see, can we keep it as steady as possible? Well, that means in low commodity environments, when we're slowing down, you know, it's maybe not as big of an issue if we have a smaller team. But in high commodity environments, you know, how can I do more with this team that I have now?
Right.
And that's really where I think AI kind of makes its mark, is doing more with less within any size oil and gas company.
So with, you bring up AI, and like you said, it's a buzzword in this industry and every industry. I think sometimes there's some misunderstanding about AI, right? Like you said, we think AI can, we think Skynet or Terminator 2, right? We've talked a little bit, and you've talked the importance of data. How important is data and AI? Do they intermingle at all?
Yeah. Well, I want to be clear with AI too. When I joined, and my CTO and I thankfully share this sentiment, like AI can't do everything. We can't just like slap AI on it and expect it to do something. And frankly, we refuse to do that because it's a bit, it's a bit chintzy. Like, we're not something we're really looking to do.
We'll jump on the shark.
Yeah, exactly. And that's honestly a problem with a lot of companies, right? To bring an example in oil and gas, a lot of people like to start with the model. It's like, hey, I got all these IoT sensors. I got all these detection devices, this hardware out there. I should be able to AI this, right? Well, unless you A, know what you're doing, and B, have kind of that human validated piece of like, what does each condition mean? You're just going to be spinning in circles. AI needs to start with the data, but it also can't just start with the model. It's got to start with the outcome. What are you trying to achieve with this?
Right.
And then when we talk about having the data, it can't start with just random sets of data. It has to start with clean, aggregated. I'm a big believer in starting with human verified data around this as well too. To then start kind of branching out a little bit. Then you bring in the IoT sensors once you have this data set of what normal conditions and not normal conditions look like. Right. And then you can start making answers out of that.
Yeah, quality data. I mean, I think it's all in all aspects of data in general. Quality data is what gets you good information.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So discussing quality data, is there some point in your career that you've had a situation go really good or really bad with the quality of data that's out there?
Yeah, it's a great question, because if you look back to, when I started in the industry 12 years or so ago, the big thing was, let's hire data analysts to look at shale data, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at how much proppant we're putting in a well, how long we're drilling our laterals, and start making connections out of this. Can we do multivariate analysis around any of this to actually get answers? And the fact of the matter was no, not really. Like, it all is kind of like a no correlation on the trend line around that.
Right.
Because one set of data may be coming from one vendor. Another set of data is coming from another vendor. There's no cohesion around this data.
Yeah, we made one change. Instead of making one change, we made 4 changes from Wellhead to well 2, so it doesn't correlate at all.
Yeah, and then we didn't consider well spacing either. So now we can't even. It's completely a moot point.
Yes,
but I think this is honestly, in my opinion, where AI is making the biggest lift, though, is taking data set 1, data set 2, data set 3, smoothing those data sets across each other, and then start building insights around that. I think we're still a little ways away from a world of predictive AI, particularly in oil and gas.
Yes.
Going back to my point of, you need a large data set of that human verified data,
right,
to be able to actually become predictive with it, which is a big goal of us at Porosity. Every day we're collecting thousands of human verified data points in the field. We believe one day we're then going to be able to put that data across IoT sensors, put the data across pumping units, ESPs, gas compressors, things like that. But until then, the best thing, in my opinion, that AI can do for you is making sense out of large and
data sets.
Data sets, right?
Yeah.
So, when we first started talking about Porosity, you talking about, again, how it can improve efficiency of your clients. And, just to piggyback into the story that you had here, do you have any stories on how Porosity has helped some of your clients now? Any numbers to say, hey, we took over, we worked with this company, and we were able to improve the efficiency by X amount? Have you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing that we love to highlight with our customers, and we love to allow them to see that data too, because it's big for those engineers who are leading these projects to be able to know the impact that they're creating. So thinking on our LDAR platform, right? What are we replacing in the LDAR platform? So what you're required to do as an operator, let's say I'm an operator in Colorado, I have to go to all my sites once a month with an optical gas imaging camera. I have to collect any leaks that I see as a company. I then have to transmit those to my repair team to get those repaired. So along through all of this, I have to collect all this data, store all this data, keep all the files aggregated around that data. And then at the end of the year, I have to go through and create regulatory reports around this.
Right.
So how a lot of operators have been doing this is simply in spreadsheets. Spreadsheets collect the data, emails and text messages when they see something. And a lot of the times it's a third-party company that are doing these inspections, trying to get to the operator, hey, you got to fix this. So one of our customers, their average time to repair a leak was about 1.5 weeks, which when you kind of do the math on that average leak size, 10 to 20 MCF a day, you can do the math, that's $800 a day on a leak that you aren't fixing. Digging further into that, when they brought on the Porosity system, consolidating all their data into one place, connecting when I see a leak, I get an instant alert as a maintenance professional that I have a leak I need to fix. We took their average time from about 1.5 weeks to a day to finish the leak. So not only capturing that ROI, but errors went down 90%. Time to enter in data went down about 50%, which you extrapolate that across a year for how often they were entering these data points was about 16,000 man hours of pure data entry. Their time to prepare the reports went from a month to a day. Simple click of the button on our system. And so you're driving real efficiency by leveraging good software. And we're copying and pasting this across clients. Most excited about our maintenance platform that we released earlier this year because leaks are great. You got to fix leaks, but in kind of an unclear regulatory environment, sometime the real ROI is how can I reduce costs as a company? How can I know what vendors perform better than others? How can I know what components and what pieces of equipment, what types of compressors perform better than others, and ensure I'm keeping those up and running? This system's been out for about 4 months. We're now aggregating data for customers through our AI system. They're able to chat directly with that data and see, tell me my highest cost projects for the past year. Now tell me which components failed the most over the past year. So with simple minutes, I can dive down and see what my issues are really quickly and start making decisions off that.
Right. And that's in any industry, right? The faster you can make the right decisions, the more money you save.
Absolutely.
So that's huge.
So you said the system does the reporting for you in a way that was push button. Does that also not only state regulatory agencies, does it also do federal?
State and federal. Okay. Yep. So the EPA, if you're an operator in the United States, from the federal level, if the site was built after 2016, you have to do twice yearly OGI inspections.
Correct.
If it's built after 2022, you got to do 4 times a year OGI inspections. Now, if you're an operator state like New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, you have to do even more.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people in this space are like, well, what's going to happen with the new administration with these rules? They're going to go away, or they're going to stay here? Well, and I tell those people, look at what the states are doing. The states actually have jurisdiction around this, and most states are requiring more and more inspections. So it's not going anywhere. It's really here to stay. Yeah. And having the ability to generate those reports from a click of the button instead of what most operators do is they aggregate this data in a spreadsheet, ship it off to a consultant to handle for them. We can do that for you in minutes.
Well, Kevin, Philip, now is a great time for us to take a pause to thank our sponsors. We'll be right back.
NewTek Global has been around a long time, for 25 years now. We do really 3 major things. We have a division that recruits, staffs, provides contract contingent talent for oil and gas companies and other industries as well. We have an environmental division, which is a full-service environmental services division, mainly for oil and gas, but other industries as well. And we also have a project management, asset management division that we call Auburn, who do projects and asset management for the oil and gas industry.
NTG Auburn is part of NewTek Global's solution services. In addition to NTG staffing and consulting, NTG wants to grow and expand its delivery of environmentally friendly and safe projects for both the energy industry and the energy transition industry. NTG Environmental and NTG Auburn provide the subject matter expertise, the processes, as well as the tools to effectively accomplish this goal.
Total Stream Systems delivers end-to-end operational intelligence for the oil and gas industry. Our platform unifies production, asset, and financial data into one intuitive interface so operators can make faster, smarter decisions. From real-time monitoring to automated reporting, we help companies optimize production, reduce costs, and improve compliance without adding complexity. In short, we turn your operational data into actionable insights that drive performance and profitability. If you're interested in learning more about Total Stream Systems, come check us out at totalstream.com, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to chat with you and learn more about your organization. Welcome back to Wisdom at the Wellhead. Philip, before we took our break, one of the topics that we wanted to discuss is, we know some people in our audience are young entrepreneurs, petroleum engineers, looking to maybe take that same path that you've taken. With that being said, we know there's, good times, hard times, but what I wanted you to do today is share a little bit of some of the challenges that you've dealt with as a CEO of a startup company.
Yeah, no, it's there's really no right way how to get that startup out of kind of that zero to one.
Yeah, there's no playbook.
There's no playbook to it, right?
Yeah.
And the best thing that you can have is confidence, right? If you look at the statistics of startups, you'll throw up on the floor and start spinning your head. But it's having the confidence in your team, building a good team around you that, these are guys I can feel I can go into battle with every day, and having a bit of ADD to not leave any stone unturned.
Right.
There's no right or wrong answers in kind of getting a startup off the ground. It's having full confidence in your product that we're going to win, we're going to do what we need to do. And then from there, it's just building presence and building that recognition as a company. You have to be willing, as I said earlier, to how we are is to not tell a customer no unless it's completely taking you off your focus and path.
Right.
If you have that good customer, listen to them, because those customers have really good ideas. Right. And 90% of that time, that good idea is going to be a good idea for someone else. And that's really how you get rolling with the product is, you start small and then you kind of grow across that and get bigger.
Right. Yeah, use your customers as your A&D department, if you will.
100%. A big thing that they encourage a lot of startup companies to is to find those trusted advisors, whether those are people in companies, or there's people that had oil and gas experience or are still in the space.
Right. Find
Find those trusted advisors that, maybe they're your first couple customers that you can always go back to and say, hey, I'm thinking about this new idea. How does that work in your workflow? How does that work for you as a company? And they'll tell you, oh, that actually is a really good idea. Let's try it out with some of our data, or let's try it out with some of our process. Or they'll say, no, probably not very helpful, and be pretty honest with you.
Yeah.
Right.
So, having a good suite of customers, advisors that you can bounce your ideas off of is critically important, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Good stuff. And so, at Porosity, again, you guys are at 8 employees, correct?
Yep.
Where do you see Porosity as an organization 5 to 10 years from now? What is your projection on your organization's growth?
Yeah, where we kind of see ourselves 5 to 10 years from now is we've started kind of this modular setup of, LDAR, at customer requests, we've grown to maintenance and safety. And we want to continue to tackle new challenges within field operations,
Yes.
That could be downhole ops, that could be, that could be land management, whatever that may be. We want to keep finding those new modular challenges that we can tackle. Hate to beat a dead horse, but we really are putting a lot of focus around AI and how we can use those applications to make it a heck of a lot easier for oil and gas customers. Right. So we're going to continue to dive into those situations, dive into those scenarios where we can leverage AI to help out of our customer. Really, next 5 to 10 years, it's always tough to tell with a startup, but we want to be at the top of the list anytime anyone needs new field software.
Right.
We want to be in the hands of as many operators in the field as we can, because we are confident in our purpose of driving efficiency to these guys, leading to a better quality of life for them, and leading for more oil out of the ground, less cost to produce that oil. Right. And that's really more than anything what we want is our customers, particularly those guys in the field, feeling like they're living a better life.
Yeah. So, one thing when I think of CEO and just the path that you've traveled, you've had to develop some thick skin, if you will. So my question is, what's motivating you, right? When you hear no, right? You haven't always heard yes from, you know, a VC or a customer, but what motivates Philip Richard day in and day out to, hey, let's wake up, let's grind, and let's keep going at it every day?
Yeah, you know, it's a couple things. I mean, there's the very easy answer of, you know, I have a wife and 3 kids at home. And,
That'll do it.
You know, that motivates me to get up and work for them, you know, without a doubt, you know. But then the team around me too, you know, I kind of came into this an interesting situation where I didn't actually found this company, and it's not very typical that a couple years into a startup that a new CEO comes in. But I had the trust of the founder, trust of our investors, and trust of the team that was there to help build something out of this. And, you know, I do take it as a point of personal point that if we got to grow because of these guys. Those guys have families too. You know, those guys have kids. Those guys have lives. And, you know, what motivates me is as well as my team, you know, being able to, every success that we have with those guys, it's so great to celebrate. Know how big or how small. And we don't all live near each other. We work all remotely, but, you know, be able to get in a call and say, hey, we landed a new deal, guys, is, you know, is so invigorating. And
the team mentality goes along.
Exactly.
If you're playing just as hard for the guy beside you as, you know,
exactly. And it's not so much, you know, you asked about 5-10 years from now, you know, really as a startup, you have to look a month out, 2 months out, and just keep making that progress from a month to month, quarter over quarter basis.
Gotcha.
And that's how you drive success around this.
So in your role, right, as or the time that you've been at Porosity, as of now, what's that biggest success, that one thing, you know, that comes top of mind that you'll always remember, right? When I became a CEO, I'll never forget this initial success. What is that for you?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's
biggest win. What? Yeah,
a big one for me was one of our first clients that was, you know, someone I called on in the past that actually didn't use our product,
right?
But, you know, they had the trust in me, kind of with this new company, like, hey, this is exactly what we need at this time, and it really kind of got things turning for me hard.
Yeah.
Another one, though, actually just happened earlier today on a call with a prospective customer. Was they said, what you guys are doing in LDAR is outside of the stratosphere, what other people are doing.
Right.
You know, we're showing them some of our AI tools and what we're doing around that. It's very, very large company. And the leader of their LDAR team said, you guys are out of the stratosphere compared to what other people are doing. You know,
that's great.
We're working through getting them signed up now. So you have to hold on to those wins hard and start up when you're scrapping and grinding. And, you know, like I said, ensure you're celebrating those as a team, because that's really what keeps that ball moving. Because you're absolutely right. You know, a smaller company, you get no's a lot. You know, you don't even get answers a lot too. But it's those incremental wins that start to stack up and make you realize, man, I'm doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing. That's it. And so, and now I also have to ask, right? You ask about successes. Has there ever been a time where, you know, it's just like, man, this is hard, and I'm tired. Have you ever had to deal with that? Maybe you haven't. Maybe you have. But
no, you deal with that every day. Every day you're tired and it's hard. But you can't let that weigh down on you.
There you go.
You know, every day at the end of the day, you're tired and it's hard. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, you have to have that smile on your face, and, you know, that glimmer in your eye that, you know, today's a new day and we're going to go after it. You know, you can't let yourself wallow in a lot of this stuff.
That's good stuff. Good stuff.
So where do you see the oil and gas industry heading into the next 5 years, technology-wise?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, starting from, you always got to start with commodity prices, no matter what the question is, right?
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, it's pretty clear to me that, you know, this cycle doesn't feel like other cycles. You know, it's pretty clear that this is a tariff-driven cycle right now. But without a doubt, you know, the oil and gas industry is going to continue to be a cyclic industry. And so, like I was saying earlier, you see companies reacting to this by trying to make it less cyclic within their own companies, you know, hiring and firing less people in the good times and the bad times. And so everything in oil and gas will be about efficiency. How can we drive efficiency? How can we do more with less? And as I mentioned, you know, a lot of that's at the expense of the field personnel. So it's the tools in the oil and gas industry are going to get AI is going to eventually get to where it needs to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be core at driving that efficiency, but I don't think any of it is like human replacing AI.
Yeah.
It's allowing that field operator, allowing that production engineer, allowing that drilling engineer to be able to do more and more with what they have. We'll see consolidation across industry, but I mean, there's always going to be your small, middle-sized oil and gas companies too that are picking up what the big guys drop.
Yep.
And those guys more than anyone are going to need to be able to drive that efficiency, to be able to scale and have that.
To make more informed decisions quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Gone are the days where you're joining 3 spreadsheets together, creating a pivot table and like kind of trying to look line by line to see what my costs were,
Right.
That answer's at your fingertips now. So
Yeah.
you have those answers now. I think where technology goes is, okay, what do I do with this answer?
Right.
How can I react to this answer? How can I be predictive about this answer? And we'll see more and more of that develop here in the next 5-10 years.
And so what would you say, to some of these organizations that are still, using old school, if you will, software, or doing things the old school way? What are they missing out on?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing I'd tell them is that, there's better solutions out there. It can be a heck of a lot easier. I think old momentum kind of slows a lot of things down for technology companies of like, that's just the way we did it.
Right.
But I think, if we continue to be in a low commodity price environment, they won't have a choice but to react.
Right.
Because you can't keep doing the old way in a lower commodity price environment because, frankly, not to be rude to any of these companies, but you won't exist.
Right.
Your job's going to be replaced. Your company's going to get bought. You're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Unless you really start focusing on leveraging the tools out there to drive efficiency.
One of the last questions as we prepare to close, right? Again, we have young engineers here, and if there's, again, you've been in the field, you've transitioned to technology, you've held different roles at various companies. What one piece of wisdom would you give to our young listeners, or our listeners, our engineers that are checking us out today? What would you tell them?
Yeah, there's a few things there. I think, certainly my generation has been told a lot, like, you got to know when to say no. Like, you got to know, you can say no more, you can tell your boss no, you can do this, but like, you rise to the top so much faster by strategically saying yes.
Yeah.
Don't say no, don't say yes to stupid things, but be the guy, especially young in your career, willing to listen, willing to learn, and willing to say yes.
Yeah.
That's how you will end up knowing more, and B, that's how frankly you rise a bit faster. But I think the second thing is, and this didn't dawn on me until I switched into the technology space, is just because you got a petroleum engineering degree doesn't mean you have to be a petroleum engineer. At its core, oil and gas and petroleum engineering, if you want to be entrepreneurial, it's a bit tough, right? Even if you're going to go out and buy your own assets, you're more of an asset manager for someone else's money than you are an entrepreneur.
Right.
So there's other things that you can do in this space, like technology, like business development, like service. Finance. Go get that foundation in the oil and gas company. Go spend some time in the field. Sit on a drilling rig. Sit on a frac job and contribute. Right. But then figure out after 3, 4, 5 years, what do you really like to do? If you really like to be a production engineer and you really like being a drilling engineer and doing that, great. Be the best drilling engineer you can be.
Right.
But if for me, I guess I kind of got a little tired of writing workover procedures and kind of doing the same thing day in, day out. And I kind of wanted to see where else could I fit in this ecosystem. And that's kind of where working in technology came in. And so knowing as a young engineer that just because you're signing up for a very specific degree doesn't mean that's what you have to stick doing your entire career. There's plenty of opportunities out there. And frankly, the best entrepreneurs and business development folks in oil and gas had that experience as an engineer first.
Right. I always like to think about, my mom told me once that everything in life is a choice. And just because you made a choice to be a petroleum engineer doesn't mean that's how you have to spend the rest of your life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, though.
And just real quick, for some of those that are maybe considering becoming a petroleum engineer, you always hear renewable energy.
Yeah.
Do you ever foresee that replacing hydrocarbons, oil and gas? How do you see those two?
Yeah.
working in the
I think there's going to be plenty of room for everyone in the ecosystem. You know, what we see more than anything is energy demand increasing.
Yes.
Correct.
And I think what we've also seen is the reliability of certain renewables just haven't been great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've kind of ham-fisted a lot of that into our grids, and we've across the world we've seen grids fail because of it. So I mean, look, I think there's a great place for solar. There's a great place for wind and other renewables within our world energy consumption.
Yeah.
But in order to grow energy demand, particularly around data centers and AI, like we're expecting it to grow now, you're never going to be able to replace hydrocarbon in the foreseeable future around that. And even still, like I said, if you got that petroleum engineering degree, you know, you're that freshman, sophomore in college, like maybe I switch to mechanical, maybe I do something else. I don't know if this is going to be here anymore. Those skills are invaluable. You learn financial analysis. You learn how to do mechanics and engineering design. You learn all the fundamentals of being an engineer. And frankly, if you're going to be a petroleum engineer, you learn a lot more on the job.
Right.
So stick out that degree. See if that's what you want to do. And if you don't, you go do something else.
Yeah. The infrastructure for oil and gas is worldwide, or globally, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it's not. It's not.
Well, Philip, man, we greatly appreciate you taking some time to come and hang out with us today on Wisdom at the Wellhead. Thank you for joining us today. Kevin, thank you as well. Guests, thank you all for tuning in to Wisdom at the Wellhead. If you would like, you can follow us on any of our platforms. Thanks, and have a great day.